welcome, and thank you for joining me in exploring another avenue on the path of the seeker. Today we're going to go into the initiation part of the hero's journey. This is an exciting part of our spiritual path. Joseph Campbell describes initiation this way. You're coming into areas of the unconscious that have been repressed, the shadow, the anima animus, and the rest of the unintegrated self. There are 6 parts in initiation. 1. The road of trials. 2. Meeting the goddess. 3. Temptress. 4. Atonement with the Father. 5. Apotheosis. 6. The ultimate boon. There are 2 paths that can be followed at this point. The first goes through all the steps. Or a person can skip 5 of the steps and go straight to the treasure, the ultimate boon. There are people who take the shortcut using drugs or attempt to raise their kundalini without the proper intent, and this is what can happen according to Joseph Campbell. This kind of realization is of a quite different spirit. Instead of a slow progress through the mysteries, there is a violent rush through all obstacles and the seizing of the desired boon. In any case, once the treasure has been grabbed, there is no reconciliation with the powers of the underworld, no sacred marriage, father, atonement, nor apotheosis. So there is a violent reaction of the whole unconscious system against the act, and the hero must escape. This is a psychotic condition. You have wrenched some knowledge from the deepest abysses of your own self, and now the demons have been loosed to wreak their vengeance. First, we have the road of trials, also known as the dark night of the soul. I've explained this one before, and I'll attach the video on it in the description below the video. During the dark night of the soul, we face all of our worst nightmares. For me, I saw my entire life crumble. I visited this stage multiple times in my life. Both times, I had a traumatic experience where I had to move, leave behind the friends I had, and completely start over. The deeper you get into the gauntlet, the heavier the resistance. These tests, then, symbolize self-realization, a process of initiation into the mysteries of life. Joseph Campbell. Meeting the goddess. This is also known as the mystical marriage, and yes, this is a photo from my masquerade wedding. This can be experienced many ways. The spiritual marriage isn't with a person, but a union of our physical body-mind with our higher self or soul. The soul usually appears in stories as the opposite gender. This union of the soul and the current mind of this incarnation is considered the mystical marriage, where the mind within the animal body rises up to and connects with the soul's higher perspective. For me, I experienced this when I met my higher self in a vision. I came to an understanding of life and how my soul views experiencing life on earth, which was very positive. Here are 2 Joseph Campbell quotes on the subject. This is the challenge of integrating the anima animus. In the mythic vocabulary of alchemy, this is called the sacred marriage. The fairy tale always ends in that kind of thing. The couple kiss and live happily ever after. Well, as someone who has been happily married for almost half a century, I can say with authority that happily ever after is just the beginning. Like life, most myths go on from there. Next, we have temptation. Here, the adventurer is enticed by a distraction that leads them off the path. We can be distracted by the idea of fighting the Illuminati or becoming some sort of social justice warrior. We can start to think that we should be changing the outside world instead of focusing on the inner world. The crux of the curious difficulty lies in the fact that our conscious views of what life ought to be seldom correspond to what life really is. The seeker of life beyond life must press beyond, surpass the temptations of her call, and soar to the immaculate other beyond. Joseph Campbell. Next is Atonement with the Father. Don't worry, I will be covering this in depth in an upcoming Traveler's Notes video. I've also covered Atonement in a blog which I will attach a link to in the description below. I think that it's important to note here that the original source for the concept of atonement is unity and oneness. Edgar Cayce, during his psychic readings, pronounced it as at-one-ment, and this is what atonement really means. Here is what Joseph Campbell has to say. The person must confront and be initiated by whatever holds the ultimate power in his or her life. In many myths and stories, this is the father, or a father figure, who has life and death power. Everything in this story leads to this moment and away from it. Atonement consists of no more than the abandonment of that self-generated double monster, the dragon thought to be God, superego, and the dragon thought to be sin, repressed id. This requires an abandonment of the attachment to ego itself, and that is what is difficult. Apotheosis, spiritual rebirth. Here is where I say personality, not the person, dies. This is where you realize that you don't have to play a role in life. You're not a character. You're at one with the one creator. There's no one else here, just the one creator wearing different masks. Your life completely changes as every person you meet is the one creator in a different form. You in a different form. This is such an absolute reversal in perception that it is extremely rare for someone to achieve. For me, it kind of happened spontaneously and was confirmed that I got it in a bizarre dream. In the dream, there was a video, and if you counted all the red shirts in the video, you would earn a superpower. The first time I didn't really try and guessed the number wrong. Then, a group of us tried to figure it out, and as I was sitting there, it dawned on me. There was only one person in that video, just the one creator. The color of the shirt didn't matter at all. The answer was 1. Here are some quotes by Joseph Campbell about apotheosis. When someone dies a physical death or dies to the self to live in spirit, he or she moves beyond the pairs of opposites to a state of divine knowledge, love, compassion, and bliss. This is where you realize that you are what you are seeking. The ultimate example of this is when Gautama achieves Buddhahood and realizes, I am the Buddha, coming to realize the full scope of yourself. At the same time, Joseph Campbell has this warning. Christ says, Love thine enemies, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. Christ read this as a revelation, a realization of an almost Buddhist sense of oneness with the whole of creation and with the Creator, whereas in the orthodoxy that revelation is quenched. Jesus says, I and the Father are one. He was crucified for that by the Orthodox community because man and God are not one. But he said they are. Al-Hallaj experienced the same fate 900 years later for exactly the same reason. Next, we're back at number 6, the ultimate boon or treasure. Well, if what I said in Traveler's Notes, the illusion of separation, is true, and the purpose of incarnating as a human being is to be companions with God, they had to freely know themselves to be themselves and yet choose to be one with God, then at this point we've achieved it. We achieved the ultimate boon. The gods and goddesses, then, are to be understood as embodiments and custodians of the elixir of imperishable being, but not themselves the ultimate in its primary state. Its guardians dare release it only to the duly proven. Joseph Campbell. Well, now we've pierced the sacred mysteries. We've attained the great treasure. We've turned lead into gold for alchemists. Maybe, if many humans obtain this state of being, we transform the whole cosmos, as the Jewish mystical Kabbalah implies. But wait, we have another series of events on the hero's journey. Join me next week, and we will take a look at the return. If you liked this video, share it with your friends and subscribe.